Welcome to Creepytalks. Stories 1. The last time I went camping with my cousins, I promised myself I'd never set foot in the woods again. Yet here I was, sitting in the back seat of Liam's aging Jeep, bumping along a forest road deep inside Black Hollow Reserve, an area famous for pristine lakes, wildlife, and a handful of disappearances no one liked to talk about. "Relax," Liam said as he drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. 3 days off the grid. No school, no work, no phones. Just us, a campfire, and the stars. I wasn't convinced. My phone's signal had already vanished 20 minutes ago, and the deeper we went, the quieter the forest became. Unnaturally quiet, like something had sucked the sound out of the air. In the passenger seat, my cousin Hannah stretched her arms and grinned. "Come on, Mia. You've wanted an escape for weeks. Think of this as therapy." Therapy was not the word I would have chosen. Not when the trees felt like they were leaning inward, watching us. Not when every instinct I had whispered that the forest didn't want us here. We finally reached the clearing, a broad, grassy space beside a still, narrow lake. The air smelled like pine and cold water. Liam killed the engine, and for the first time, real silence settled over us. "Perfect spot," he said, hopping out. I stepped onto the ground and scanned the tree line. The trunks were tall, straight, and tightly packed. Far too dense. The lake reflected them like black glass. Then something moved, just a ripple on the surface. Not fish, larger. I blinked and the water stilled, completely untouched. Hannah nudged my shoulder. "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied. We unpacked the tents, set up a fire ring, and arranged our gear. Liam hummed a tune as he worked, an airy, repetitive whistle that I realized I'd heard since we started driving. I thought it was a song playing from the radio earlier, but now out here with no electronics around, the tune felt odd, like he was echoing something he had heard in the forest. "Where did you learn that?" I asked. The whistle." "I don't know." He paused as if surprised at himself. "Guess it's stuck in my head." The sun began sinking behind the dark trees, painting the water with streaks of orange and gold. Soon the shadows thickened, long and heavy. That's when the forest finally found its voice. Not normal forest sounds. No birds, no rustling squirrels. No. The first sound was a low creak, like wood twisting under pressure. Then a distant thump. Then faint, slow splashes, as though something large was wading through the lake on the far side. Every hair on my arms rose. Liam didn't seem to notice. "Fire time," he announced, striking a match. The small flame flickered to life, and somehow it made the encroaching darkness feel even darker, like the light exposed how deeply unnatural the shadows around us were. We sat around the fire, roasting marshmallows, telling stories, pretending everything was normal. But something was watching us. I first felt it as a prickle, an unwelcome awareness at the back of my neck. I looked over my shoulder. A shape stood between two trees, not clear, not fully visible, but tall, much taller than any of us, with a narrow, elongated silhouette. "Do you see that?" I whispered. Hannah followed my gaze. "See what?" The space between the trees was empty, but I knew something had been there. We stayed close to the fire until the stars came out. The sky above was beautiful, a river of shimmering dust across an endless black canvas. Liam leaned back on his elbows, confident, relaxed. "I love nights like this," he said. "Feels like the world shrinks down to just us." I didn't feel small. I felt surrounded. At around midnight, we crawled into our tents. I shared one with Hannah, while Liam slept alone in his. The nylon walls felt too thin, like they did nothing to separate us from whatever roamed the woods. I lay awake listening. Hannah breathed softly beside me. The fire outside faded into glowing embers. For a few minutes, nothing happened. Then something stepped into the clearing. I felt it more than heard it. Soft, deliberate pressure in the ground. A slow, dragging stride. Grass shifting. The faintest scrape of something against wood. I stopped breathing. Another step. Closer. Then a low whistle drifted through the air. The same tune Liam had been unconsciously repeating. Only this whistle wasn't human. It was too smooth, too airy, too perfect, like someone or something was mimicking the sound rather than producing it naturally. My chest tightened. The whistle grew louder, moving around the campsite in a lazy, playful arc. It circled us, humming the same short melody over and over. Hannah stirred. "Mia, what is that noise?" I placed a shaking hand over her arm. "Don't move." A shadow passed over our tent, blocking the faint moonlight for one long moment. Then another whistle, directly above us. Hannah clamped a hand over her mouth to stifle a gasp. The silhouette outside the fabric slowly leaned down. I could see its outline, tall, wrong, its limbs too long, its head tilted like it was listening. It sniffed the tent, sniffed us. My heartbeat roared in my ears. Then from the other tent, Liam whispered, "Mia, Hannah, is someone walking out there?" The whistling stopped instantly. Silence thickened. For one long, terrible moment, nothing moved. Then footsteps sped across the clearing, not away from us, but straight toward Liam's tent. He gasped. Something heavy collided with fabric. Liam screamed, and then nothing. Just the soft ripple of water from the lake, as if something had entered it. Story 2. I scrambled out of the sleeping bag, nearly tripping over Hannah as we fought with the zipper of the tent. My hand shook so badly I could barely grip it. When the flap finally burst open, cold night air rushed in, carrying the sharp scent of wet earth and lake water. "Liam!" Hannah yelled. His tent was half collapsed, the poles bent, the flap torn open as if something had yanked it from the inside. The flashlight he kept clipped to his sleeping bag was nowhere to be seen. What was visible, though, were deep grooves carved into the soil, as if long fingers or claws had raked across the dirt. "Liam!" I called again, my voice cracking. No answer. The moonlight shimmered on the surface of the lake, rippling gently. Too gently, like the water had only recently stopped moving. I took a step forward. Hannah grabbed my wrist. "Don't," she whispered. "What if it's still out there?" I didn't want to think about what it was. The thing that whistled. The thing that sniffed us through the tent wall. The thing that mimicked Liam's tune so perfectly it felt rehearsed. "We need to find him," I said. "We can't just—" A sound cut me off. A low, wet choke from the tree line. Hannah and I froze. Another noise followed, soft, uneven footsteps, but not like a normal person's steps. Each footfall came with a faint, dragging sound, like something long trailed behind it. Through the gaps in the trees, a shape moved, not rushing, not running, just observing, waiting. I swallowed hard. "We have to get to the Jeep." "Yes," Hannah whispered. "Keys. Liam has the keys." My stomach dropped. Of course he did. He always kept them on him, clipped to his belt. And now he was gone, dragged into the forest or the lake. We had no way of driving out, unless we found him, or his keys. The creature's silhouette shifted between the trees, slow and deliberate. It was taller than I remembered, maybe because now it wasn't hunched over our tent. Its limbs were thin and impossibly long, like branches pulled from the forest and forced into the shape of a body. It whistled again. Only this time the sound was broken. Lower, almost mocking. Hannah whispered, "Mia." I think it wants us to follow. I'm not following it anywhere. But Liam, I grabbed her shoulders. If we go into that forest at night, we won't make it out. Tears shimmered in her eyes, but she nodded. We backed away slowly, keeping our eyes on the trees. The creature didn't move. It stood there, partially hidden, the moonlight illuminating only the edge of its elongated frame. We snatched our backpacks, grabbed every flashlight we had, and pressed together near the dying fire. Hannah crouched down and stirred the embers. "What are you doing?" I hissed. "We need more light." She fed in handfuls of dry leaves and spare kindling until flames rose again. The warm glow pushed back the darkness, but not enough. It felt like lighting a match inside a cavern, small, fragile, temporary. "Okay," Hannah said, her breath shaky. "Plan?" "First light," I said. "We stick together, stay awake, and wait until sunrise. Then we follow the tracks. And if it comes back, we run, or fight, or both." The woods groaned. A long, creaking moan like wood twisting under an unseen weight. The creature was no longer at the tree line. We didn't see it leave. It was just gone. Maybe it left," Hannah whispered hopefully. But I knew better. Predators didn't leave. They circled. "Let's keep the fire big," I said. "Liam taught us that animals don't like fire." That thing wasn't an animal. We sat back to back beside the flames. Time dragged. Every minute felt like an hour. The forest was too quiet. Even the crickets were silent. My eyes stayed fixed on the lake. Hannah's remained locked on the trees. Around 2 a.m., the temperature dropped sharply. Our breath curled white in the air. The lake's surface misted over. And that was when we heard it again. The whistle. But it sounded wrong. It was coming from two directions. One soft and distant, from deep inside the forest. The other, closer, much closer, from behind Liam's tent. Hannah stiffened. "There's two of them?" "No," I whispered. "It's just one. It's echoing itself." The whistle warped, the tone stretching unnaturally like it was bending the sound with its throat. The melody faltered, twisted itself inside out, then returned to the familiar tune Liam had hummed earlier. "Stop," Hannah whispered harshly, covering her ears. "Stop, stop." "It knows we're scared," I said. The fire crackled, sparks shooting upward like frightened fireflies. Then a new sound joined the whistling. Footsteps, soft rhythmic footsteps, coming from the lake. We turned our flashlights toward the shoreline. Something stood knee-deep in the water, tall, still, watching. Its wet skin, or whatever covered it, glistened in the beams of light. Its arms hung low, fingertips nearly touching the surface. A face, if it had a face, was turned toward us, pale and featureless except for two dark, hollow shapes where eyes should have been. Hannah grabbed my arms so tightly her nails dug into my skin. The creature cocked its head. Then, something dropped into the water beside it with a splash. A small, cold object washed ashore. I inched closer, flashlight trembling. It was a key ring. Liam's, still clipped to a torn piece of his belt. Hannah choked back a sob. The creature rose slowly, step by step, emerging from the water with a liquid slowness that made my stomach twist. It wasn't giving us the keys. It was showing us what it had, showing us what it could take. I backed away, my voice barely a whisper. "Hannah, run." Story 3. We didn't run at first, not because we didn't want to, but because our legs refused to move. The creature stared back at us from the lake's edge, dripping and silent, the faint moonlight outlining its unnatural shape. Then it stepped forward. The water rippled behind it. Its long fingers trailed along the surface before lifting, dripping like strands of melted wax. "Mia," Hannah whispered, "we have to go. Now." The creature tilted its head again, as if considering us. Then it whistled, soft, almost curious. That was enough. "Run!" I shouted. This time our bodies obeyed. We sprinted toward the jeep, the cold air tearing at our lungs. Our flashlights bounced wildly across the clearing. Behind us I could hear the splash of long steps emerging fully from the lake. The whistle followed, still gentle, still mocking. We reached the jeep, nearly collapsing against the doors. "Keys!" Hannah gasped. I held up the ring with shaking hands. "Got them!" But relief lasted only a heartbeat. There was no point in using them. One of the jeep's tires had been shredded, massive claw marks slashed through the rubber. Deep enough that whatever made them wasn't trying to sabotage us quietly. It was leaving a message. "Spare tire?" Hannah asked desperately. "It's gone," I whispered. "It tore it off. Look." The back of the Jeep hung crooked. The spare tire mount was empty. The bolts twisted like soft metal. Hannah pressed her hand over her mouth. "It doesn't want us leaving." The creature whistled again, closer now. We spun around. It stood at the far end of the clearing, partially hidden by the dark silhouettes of the trees. The moonlight behind it made its limbs appear even longer, like stretched shadows. "Mia," Hannah whispered shakily. "Fire. The fire scared it earlier, right?" I looked at the dying flames by our campsite. They flickered weakly, barely holding shape. If the fire went out, we'd lose the only shield we had. "We need to get back to the fire," I said. "We stay in the light until morning." "But the fire's almost gone." "Then we make it bigger." I grabbed Hannah's hand and pulled her with me. We ran back toward the campfire. The creature stayed where it was, watching. Not chasing, not yet. When we reached the fire, Hannah dropped to her knees and threw in everything she could find. Dry sticks, paper wrappers from our food, a torn piece of fabric. The flames rose slightly, but not enough. I dug through my backpack. Fuel, fuel, aha. I pulled out Liam's camping stove canister, half full. "Mia," Hannah said, eyes wide, "that could explode." "It'll burn hot first." I twisted the valve open just a crack and placed the canister near the edge of the fire. Flames caught immediately, flaring bright blue and orange with a roaring heat. The clearing lit up, and for the first time, we saw the creature clearly. It stood fully exposed in the light, its skin a pale, sickly gray that seemed almost translucent. Water dripped down its ribbed torso. Its limbs were impossibly long, arms hanging nearly to its knees. And its face wasn't a face. It was smooth like stretched wet clay. Only two dark hollows marked where eyes should have been. The shapes weren't sockets. They were voids impossibly deep. It didn't blink. It didn't breathe. It just stared. The fire roared between us, the heat distorting its shape. Is it burning it?" Hannah whispered. "No," I breathed. "It's waiting." The creature took one slow step back into the shadows, letting the darkness swallow its form until only a faint, silvery outline remained. The whistle echoed again, but this time it came from behind us. We whipped around. Nothing. Just the forest. Just the darkness. Just the trees. Hannah grabbed my arm. "There's more than one." "No," I whispered. "It can throw its voice." "How do you know?" Because the whistle behind us was identical. Too perfect to be natural. It wasn't two creatures. It was one, making us think it surrounded us. The wind picked up. The trees creaked. The flames sputtered. "Mia," Hannah whispered, "the stove canister is almost empty." The fire's bright roar began to fade again. "Gather wood," I said. "Everything you can grab." We tore through the clearing, ripping dead branches off fallen limbs, snapping sticks, throwing logs into the flames. The fire surged, but every time it weakened, the creature inched closer, watching, waiting, whistling. At one point, Hannah dropped a bundle of sticks and stumbled, falling to her knees. "Hannah!" She turned her flashlight toward the trees. Something crouched low behind a stump, too large to be an animal, its limbs folded like a spider's, its head tilted sideways at a grotesque angle. It froze in the beam of light. Then it slowly crawled upward, its joints bending backward as it rose to full height. The whistle that followed was soft, curious, almost playful. Hannah screamed, scrambling backward until she reached the fire's edge. I stood between her and the creature, holding a burning log like a weapon. "Stay back," I shouted. The creature didn't flinch, but it stopped moving. It stared at the flame in my hand, as if examining it, calculating. Then it stepped back into the shadows again. We retreated to the center of the clearing, pressing our backs together as the fire flickered wildly. Hours felt like days. The creature circled us, always just beyond the firelight, visible only as a shifting silhouette. Sometimes it whistled, sometimes it scratched its long fingers across a tree trunk. Sometimes it simply stood still, as if waiting for us to fall asleep. We didn't. We couldn't. At last, at long, painful last, gray light began to seep through the trees. Dawn. But as the sun rose, the forest didn't feel safer, because now in the daylight, we could finally see the tracks it left in the mud. Deep, long, impossible footprints that trailed from the lake into the woods, and among them, smaller prints, human prints, Liam's, leading deeper into Black Hollow Forest. Stories. 4. The early morning light should have been comforting, but the rising sun only revealed how wrong everything truly was. The forest was bathed in a dull gray haze, the lake mist curling along the surface like pale fingers reaching for shore. Hannah stared at the muddy footprints, her face drained of color. "Those are Liam's," she whispered. He walked into the forest." "Or was taken into it," I said softly. Hannah's jaw clenched. "We have to follow the tracks." Every instinct inside me screamed to run the opposite direction, to get as far from Black Hollow as possible. But there was no way out. The Jeep was disabled, no signal, no roads nearby. And Liam was either alive or dying somewhere in the woods. "We'll follow them," I said, tightening my grip on the flashlight. "But we stay close together. Don't wander. Don't look away for too long." We packed what little we had left: water, flashlights, a few granola bars, and the half-bent camping knife Liam had once used to crack open firewood. It felt pathetically small against whatever hunted us. The trail led straight into the trees. As soon as we crossed the tree line, the air felt different, heavier, colder, thicker. The forest swallowed sound. Even our footsteps were muffled, as if the ground itself was absorbing the noise. "Do you hear that?" Hannah asked. I listened. Nothing. No birds, no insects, no rustling leaves, just the distant drip of water falling from branches. "Why is everything so quiet?" she whispered. "Because it's still here," I said. We followed the footprints, weaving between the tall pines. The deeper we walked, the more warped the tracks became. The creature's prints were spaced impossibly far apart, as if it took strides twice as long as a person. Liam's footprints were normal at first, but soon they changed. The heel marks disappeared. The impressions became shallower, almost as if he wasn't walking willingly anymore. more like he was being dragged or guided. "Mia," Hannah said suddenly, "look." She pointed to a tree. Long, thin gouges ran down its trunk. Too straight, too deliberate, like knives dragged downward. No, not knives. Fingers. Then the whistling began again. Soft at first, drifting through the trees like a cold breeze. The same haunting, airy tune. The same melody Liam had hummed without knowing why. Hannah squeezed my arm. "It's close." "I know." We moved faster. The trail led us through a grove of dead trees. Bark stripped clean, branches twisted like grasping hands. The deeper we went, the more the forest seemed wrong. Trees curved unnaturally. Roots formed strange spirals on the ground. The air carried a faint metallic scent. Then we saw something ahead, a piece of fabric caught on a branch. Liam's jacket sleeve. I ran forward, snatching it off the tree. It was torn clean off, edges ragged, smeared with mud and something darker. "He was here," I whispered. Hannah looked around with wide, terrified eyes. "Then where is he now?" The forest answered. A scream echoed through the woods, raw, distant, unmistakable. "Liam! Liam!" Hannah screamed back, sprinting toward the sound. "Wait! Hannah, stop!" I chased after her, branches whipping at my face. The scream cut off abruptly. Silence fell again. We slowed, breathless and shaking. Hannah spun in a frantic circle. "What direction did it come from? Where do we go?" I pointed to the ground. "The tracks! We follow the tracks!" But something had changed. Now instead of 2 sets of footprints, there were 3. A new set, small, bare, human-looking, walked alongside the creature's long, twisted prints. These prints were too perfect, too evenly spaced, as if whoever made them followed a rhythm. Hannah crouched down. "Those aren't Liam's." "No," I said. "They're too small." "So whose are they?" The whistling answered. It floated from deeper in the forest. Lower, slower, as if whoever was whistling didn't fully understand how to make the sound. I tightened my grip on my knife. "It's mimicking again." Hannah's voice trembled. "Why is it doing this?" "To lure us." We pushed forward cautiously. The trail led to a narrow path lined with mossy stones. The trees arched overhead, forming a tunnel of twisted wood. It felt ancient, wrong, like something lived here long before people ever stepped foot in these woods. As we moved through the tunnel, the light dimmed again, even though it was still morning. Shadows thickened unnaturally. Then we reached a clearing, and my stomach dropped. There, in the center of the clearing, stood a stone circle. 8 large rocks arranged in a perfect ring. Deep grooves carved into each stone formed symbols I didn't recognize. Loops, lines, and spirals that hurt to look at. And inside the stone circle was Liam. He stood perfectly still, facing away from us. His posture was stiff, arms limp at his sides. His clothes were soaked, his hair matted with mud. "Liam!" Hannah cried, rushing toward him. I grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "Wait, something's wrong." Liam didn't react, didn't move, didn't even flinch at the sound of his name. He just stood there, unmoving, unnatural. Then he slowly turned his head. Only his head. His body remained facing forward while his neck twisted far too far to the side. His eyes were wide. His mouth hung slightly open. "Mia, Hannah," he whispered, voice hoarse, strained. "Don't." His mouth kept moving, but the sound that came out wasn't his voice. It was the whistle, the same haunting tune, escaping from his lips like breath, leaking from a broken instrument. Hannah screamed. I stepped back, trembling. Liam lifted one arm. His fingers twitched. Behind him, something rose. Tall, hungry, wrong. Its long fingers rested gently on Liam's shoulders, like it was puppeteering him. Its hollow eyes locked onto us. The whistle grew louder. "You shouldn't have come," Liam whispered. Story 5. For a moment, neither Hannah nor I could move. The scene before us was so wrong, so warped, that my mind struggled to understand it. Liam stood motionless inside the stone circle, his body held upright not by strength, but by the long bony fingers pressed firmly into his shoulders from behind. The creature loomed over him, so tall it seemed to merge with the shadows above. Its hollow eyes didn't blink, didn't waver. They just stared straight into us. "Mia," Liam whispered again, though his lips barely moved. "Run." But then his mouth twisted into a stretched, unnatural smile, and the whistle poured out of him. Clear, controlled, too perfect. Hannah sobbed. "Liam, please, talk to us. Don't let it." The whistle stopped abruptly. Then Liam's voice changed. Low, hollow, layered, as if two people spoke at once. "You follow the trail." Hannah stumbled backward in terror. "That's not him. That's not Liam." Liam's head tilted unnaturally far to one side, like a doll's head loosened from its neck. "You came when called," it said through him. "You listened to the song." The creature behind him leaned forward, its faceless head drooping over Liam's like some twisted marionette master. Its fingertips curled deeper into his shoulders. Liam winced, or perhaps the creature made him wince. I could barely breathe. "Let him go," I whispered. The forest seemed to hold its breath. "Let him go?" Liam's mouth echoed, the inflection wrong, stretched. Then the creature straightened, lifting Liam off the ground by his shoulders as though he weighed nothing. His feet dangled, his boots dripping with lake water. "He came willingly," the thing whispered through him. "No, he didn't," I snapped. "You dragged him out of the tent, you—" The creature moved so fast I didn't see it. One moment it was behind Liam. The next it stood at the edge of the stone circle. Liam dropped to his knees like a puppet with cut strings. Hannah yanked me backward. "Mia, stay away from the stones. Don't go inside the circle." I hadn't realized I'd been stepping toward it, toward Liam, toward the creature. The thing paused at the boundary of the stone ring, tracing its long finger along one carved symbol. The grooves glowed faintly, soft like candlelight. The creature whispered in a voice made of wind and hollow spaces. "You do not know what these stones are." I swallowed hard. "Then tell us." It cocked its head. "A doorway, a place of crossing." "Crossing into what?" It did not answer. Instead, it raised its long, thin arm and pointed at Hannah. "No." I moved in front of her instinctively. The creature lowered its hands slowly, almost curiously, like it hadn't expected me to challenge it. Liam suddenly gasped behind us, falling forward onto his hands. The sound was so human, so raw, that it cut through my terror. We both turned. "Liam!" Hannah cried. He lifted his head, but his eyes were unfocused, pupils blown wide, face pale as death. "Don't touch me," he rasped. "Don't come closer." "Mia," Hannah whispered. He looks like he's freezing." I stepped close to the stone boundary, careful not to cross. "Liam, can you walk? Can you move?" He shook his head. Tears streamed down his face. It wants someone else. It wants—" He choked on his own breath. The creature answered for him. "One stays, one leaves." A chill cut through me. "What does that mean?" "Balance," it whispered. "Exchange." "No," Hannah said firmly, gripping my arm. "We're not leaving him here. We're not sacrificing anyone." The creature leaned forward, its hollow eye pits inches from the glowing symbols. "Choose," it breathed. "No," Hannah shouted, voice cracking. "We won't choose." But the forest itself reacted. The trees shuddered. Branches groaned overhead. The air vibrated with an eerie, pulsing resonance, like the entire woods were holding one long, agonized note. The creature extended one long finger toward Hannah again. "No!" I screamed, stepping between them. "Take me!" The world seemed to stop. Hannah's scream tore through the clearing. "Mia, no, don't say that! Don't ever say that!" The creature lowered its arm. The forest fell silent. It regarded me with a stillness more terrifying than any sound. "Mia," Hannah whispered shakily. "What are you doing?" "Saving you both," I said, though my voice trembled. The creature moved closer, but not to grab me. It hovered near the stone's edge, as if evaluating something unseen. Then with a slow, deliberate movement, it reached down and touched Liam's back. He screamed, a raw, piercing animal sound that tore through my chest. Hannah sobbed uncontrollably. "Please, please stop. We'll do anything. Just stop hurting him." The creature's hand hovered above Liam's spine. Then it spoke again. "Choose." I said take. A hand grabbed my wrist, not the creature's. Liam. His fingers dug into my skin weakly, desperately. He mouthed one word. "Run." My heart broke. "Liam!" He shook his head violently. Blood trickled from his nose. "Run!" he croaked. "Before it takes both of you." Hannah clung to me, crying. "Mia, we can't leave him." The creature's whistle rose again, sharp, urgent, almost angry. The trees creaked violently. The ground trembled beneath our feet. The creature moved toward us. We stumbled back. "Mia," Hannah begged, "what do we do?" And then, from the forest behind us, a second whistle answered. Not the creature's. Higher, different, human. Liam's head snapped up, eyes widening in terror. "That's impossible," I whispered. Hannah's face blanched. "Then who?" The whistle came again, and again, closer, approaching, through the trees. Something else was coming, something whistling the same tune, but not the creature, and not Liam. Something else. The creature stiffened, its long limbs tensing. For the first time, it looked afraid. Story 6. The whistle coming from the forest didn't belong to Liam. It didn't belong to the creature either. This one sounded wrong in an entirely different way. Sharp, uneven, almost panicked. The notes cracked, like whoever was trying to mimic the melody barely understood how breath worked. The creature in front of us froze. Its long limbs curled inward, like a spider retreating from a threat. It lifted its head and listened. The new whistle echoed again. Closer now. Too close. "Mia," Hannah whispered, her nails digging painfully into my arm. "What is that? What else could be in here?" My throat felt dry. I don't know." Liam shuddered on the forest floor, his breath ragged. "Don't look at it. Don't answer it." The creature hissed, an eerie, breathless sound that vibrated through the stones at our feet. It turned away from Liam, facing the source of the approaching whistle. The forest darkened, not from clouds, not from shadows. It felt like something swallowed the light itself. A shape emerged between the trees. First just a blur, then a silhouette, then details. At first I thought it was a person. Tall, thin, barefoot, clothes soaked and torn. But as it stepped forward, my stomach twisted. Its legs bent wrong, knees curving inward, almost buckling with each step. Its arms hung stiffly at its sides, fingers curled like dried leaves. The head twitched in sharp, unnatural angles, as if heavy and difficult to hold upright. It took another step, its foot dragging through the dirt, leaving a trench. The whistle sputtered out of its throat, wet, choking, off-key. Then the light shifted just enough for me to see its face. Hannah gasped. "No," she whispered. "No, that can't be." The thing stepped forward into full view. Its face was swollen, waterlogged, skin pale and stretched, the eyes clouded white. Its jaw hung slightly open, stiff, as if it had drowned. I recognized him, a missing hiker, one of the faces on the warning bulletin at the reserve entrance, the one that had gone missing 3 months earlier, the one whose body was never found. He was dead, but he was moving. "Mia," Hannah sobbed. That's... I know," I whispered. "I see him." The drowned man stumbled forward, jerking like a puppet controlled by unsure hands. He whistled again, broken, strangled. The creature, the tall, faceless one, backed away from him. Fear. For the first time since we had seen it, it felt fear. The drowned man's head twitched sharply before snapping to us. His eyes, glassy, lifeless, locked onto mine. I stumbled back, heart hammering. "He's not alive," I whispered. "He's not himself." "Then who is moving him?" Hannah whispered. The drowned hiker lurched toward the stone circle. Liam screamed. The whistle from the drowned man cracked in his throat, twisting into a wet gurgle. He fell forward onto his hands, vomited lake water, then jerked back to his feet as if strings yanked him upright. The faceless creature hissed loudly, stepping between him and the circle. The two stood facing each other, motionless, silent, like predators assessing each other. Then the forest exploded in noise. Branches groaned. Winds surged violently through the clearing. The ground shook as if something was trying to push up from beneath it. And then the drowned hiker lunged, not at us, at the faceless creature. A guttural screech tore from his throat, nothing like a human voice. The faceless creature swung its unnaturally long arm, sending the drowned man crashing into a tree with a sickening crack. He crumpled, but he didn't stay down. He stood again, bones bending in ways they shouldn't. The faceless creature stepped back. The stone circle glowed brighter beneath Liam, symbols pulsing like a heartbeat. Hannah grabbed my arm. "Mia, what is happening?" "I think..." My voice shook. "I think they aren't the same. I think they're enemies." Liam coughed violently behind us. "Get away," he rasped. "Both of you, get away." The drowned man charged again, faster this time. The faceless creature raised both its arms, and the forest exploded in blinding white light. I shielded my eyes. Hannah screamed. Liam collapsed fully. When the light faded, the drowned hiker was gone. Not fallen, not running, simply gone. The faceless creature staggered back, its limbs trembling. It let out a low, rattling hiss, angry, wounded, afraid. It turned toward Liam, toward the stones, toward us, and then it retreated, not slowly, not calmly. It vanished into the forest with unnatural speed, melting into the dark like smoke. The forest fell silent, deathly silent. Only Liam remained, collapsed within the stone circle. We rushed to him. "Liam!" Hannah cried, lifting his shoulders with shaking hands. "Talk to us! Please, just talk!" He blinked slowly, focusing on us as though waking from a nightmare. "Mia, Hannah, we're here," I whispered, brushing mud and leaves from his hair. Slowly, painfully, he lifted his arm and pointed toward the trees where the creature had fled. "It's not gone," he whispered. "It didn't run because of us." "What do you mean?" I asked. His voice cracked. "It ran because something worse is coming." Story 7. Liam's words hung in the air like frost. "Something worse is coming." Hannah squeezed his hand. "Liam, what do you mean? What could be worse than that thing?" He shuddered violently, trying to breathe. I don't know its name, but the faceless one, he swallowed hard. It's afraid of it. I glanced around the clearing. The forest looked normal again, quiet, still, almost peaceful. But everything felt wrong. The air was heavy, buzzing with a low vibration I could feel in my bones. Hannah looked at the stone circle. We have to get him out of there. The symbols carved into the stones still glowed faintly, like dying embers. Liam lay across them, half conscious. Whatever the creature had done to him, it had drained something, pulled something out. I reached for him. Mia, Hannah said sharply, the stones. What if there's some kind of trap? I hesitated. Liam, I whispered, can you move? He barely shook his head. Can't. Feel my legs. Fear twisted in my gut. We couldn't leave him here, and we couldn't stay here either. I took a deep breath and stepped into the circle. Nothing happened. No explosion, no sound, no burning sensation, just cold, bone-deep cold, like stepping into the bottom of a lake. Hannah grabbed my arm. Are you okay? I'm fine, I said. Help me lift him. Together we pulled Liam to his feet. He groaned, leaning heavily on us. We have to move, he whispered. We can't stay in this clearing. Okay, I said. Back to camp. Back to sunlight. As soon as we stepped out of the stone circle, the glow faded completely, like the symbols had only been alive while Liam was inside. We didn't look back. The forest felt even colder than before. The morning sun tried to pierce the canopy, but the light seemed to dim as it reached the forest floor. Branches overhead twisted like ribs of a giant creature, caging us in. We moved slowly, Liam between us, half dragged. Hannah looked over her shoulder every few seconds. Mia, do you hear that? I listened. A faint sound drifted between the trees. Not the whistle, not footsteps. A distant, hollow knocking. 3 taps. A pause. 3 taps again. I tightened my grip on Liam. Keep moving. We followed the muddy trail back toward camp, but the forest felt different. Paths twisted where they shouldn't. Fallen logs we passed earlier were gone. Even the trees changed shape, like the woods were rearranging themselves around us. Hannah swallowed. Are we lost? No, I lied. We just need to keep going straight. But inside, dread gnawed. The forest wasn't letting us go. We came across a shallow ravine, one we hadn't seen before. Water trickled through it, carrying leaves and bits of debris. Something caught my eye downstream, a piece of cloth wedged in the rocks. Hannah saw it too. That's a shirt, a familiar one. From one of the missing hikers, I whispered. Same color, same tear pattern. The knocking continued, closer now. Knock, knock, knock. Liam stiffened between us. Don't answer it. We're not answering anything, Hannah said. No, Liam rasped. Don't acknowledge it. The knocking grew louder. Knock, knock, knock. Then, a second knocking answered on our right. Knock, knock, knock. Something was communicating with each other, with us, or with the forest. I didn't want to know. We kept moving. When we reached camp, relief washed over me. Briefly, our tents were still there, the fire pit, the scattered gear, but it all looked older, like we'd been gone longer than just a couple of hours. Leaves were piled over the backpacks. Dew coated everything. The air smelled stale. Hannah frowned. Why does it look like no one's been here for days? I don't know, I said, but we need to grab supplies and... A branch snapped behind us. We spun. A figure stood near the tree line. My stomach turned to ice. The drowned hiker. His limbs hung limply, head tilted, eyes white and staring. His clothes dripped with dark, dirty water that pooled at his feet. He didn't move. He didn't whistle. He just stood there, watching. "Mia," Hannah whispered shakily, "I thought the faceless creature got rid of him." "I don't think it can be killed," I whispered. Liam weakly raised his hand, pointing at the drowned hiker. "Not him," he croaked. "Behind him." I looked past the hiker and froze. A second figure stood there, shorter, slumped, barefoot, face obscured by tangled hair. Then another, then another. Bodies, half decayed, waterlogged, emerged from between the trees, their movements jerky, twitching. Some crawled, some limped. Some dragged broken limbs behind them, all whistling softly. Different tones, different rhythms, all wrong. Hannah choked on a breath. "There are so many." My heart slammed against my ribs. These weren't just lost hikers. They were the forest drowned, trapped, puppeted, and coming toward us. "Run," I whispered. "But Liam—" "I'll take him," I said, hoisting his arm over my shoulder. Hannah nodded, tears streaming. "The Jeep! Even with one tire. We can try to drive it. We can—" The knocking started again. All around us, louder, faster, closer. Knock, knock, knock. The drowned ones jerked violently at the sound, then began to sprint. Not walk, not stumble. Sprint! "Go!" I shrieked. We ran. Branches whipped our faces. Leaves tore beneath our feet. Liam stumbled but kept moving, fueled by terror. Behind us, the drowned shrieked in broken, gargled voices. And over it all, a new sound rose from the forest, deeper, stronger, a whistle so loud it shook the air. Not the drowned, not the creature from before. Something else, something massive, something that made the faceless creature flee, something that made the drowned obey, something older than the forest itself. We burst into the clearing. The Jeep waited, crushed, bent inward. Roof caved in, windows shattered, like something had stomped on it with enormous weight. Hannah screamed, oh my God, it's destroyed. We're trapped. Mia, we're trapped." The forest behind us roared, and something enormous stepped into the clearing. Story 8. The ground trembled as the thing stepped into the clearing. Hannah grabbed my arm so hard her nails cut into my skin. Liam sagged against me, barely conscious. And I couldn't breathe, because what emerged from the forest wasn't just a creature. It was wrong, impossible. Like the forest had shaped itself into a body, twisted roots for limbs, moss and bark for flesh, hollow pits where eyes should be. It stood at least 15 feet tall, hunched under the trees. Its legs were long, jointed like an elk's but made of gnarled wood. Its arms hung unnaturally low, ending in splintered fingers that curled and twitched with life. Its chest rose and fell in slow, shuddering breaths, creaking like old timber. But its head, God, its head was terrifying. A massive stag skull sat atop its towering frame, antlers tangled with vines and strips of dry flesh. Inside the skull, darkness shifted, moving like liquid shadow, and the sound, the whistle, low, echoing, not human, not animal, a hollow, ancient note that vibrated in the air, in my teeth, in my bones. Hannah whispered, "What is that?" Liam sobbed softly. "It's the caller." The caller. The name alone made my stomach twist. "It controls them," he rasped. "The drowned ones, the lesser creatures, all of it. They obey its whistle." As if on cue, the drowned hikers behind us fell to their knees, heads jerking toward the caller, trembling like dogs obeying a master. The caller raised its head. The forest fell silent. Even the wind stopped. It stared at us, or seemed to. The hollow sockets of the skull turned our way. Its whistle faded. Then slowly, deliberately, it lifted one massive, root-woven foot and stepped closer. The ground cracked. The air thickened. Hannah backed away, pulling me with her. "Mia, we can't fight that. We can't run from that. What do we do?" I didn't know. My mind was blank with terror. Liam's breath came in sharp, panicked gasps. "Don't look into the skull," he whispered. "Don't meet its gaze. Don't listen to—" A sharp whistle cut through the air. The caller had blown through the stag's skull. The sound was unbearable, like glass shattering inside my head, like my thoughts were being pulled apart. I dropped to my knees, clutching my ears. Hannah screamed beside me. Liam convulsed violently. Branches around us shook, and the drowned ones rose slowly from the ground, heads twitching in unison toward the caller. Another whistle, higher, sharper. The drowned sprinted toward us. "Move!" I shouted, dragging Liam to his feet. The caller didn't move fast, but it didn't have to. It was pushing us, hurting us, away from the clearing, away from the jeep, back, into the forest. Hannah pulled me desperately. "We have to lose them. We have to hide. We have to—" A drowned woman lunged at her, clawing at her shirt with waterlogged fingers. I swung a fallen branch with every ounce of strength. The impact snapped bone, but the drowned woman didn't scream, didn't even react. She just kept reaching. "Mia!" Hannah cried. "I'm trying!" The caller whistled again, long, rising, commanding. The drowned surged forward. The forest itself seemed to close in, branches knitting overhead, paths bending, roots shifting underfoot. We ran blindly. Branches whipped our faces. Mud sucked at our shoes. Liam stumbled repeatedly, barely conscious, mumbling about the circle, about the symbols, about something we didn't understand. Hannah screamed again. "There's no way out!" "There has to be," I gasped. "Just keep going." We burst through a dense wall of ferns and stumbled into a ravine, steep, deep, impossible to cross. Behind us, the drowned ones were closing in, their wet, wheezing breaths echoing through the trees. And above them, the caller stepped into view. It whistled, tilting its skull downward, like it was examining prey. We were cornered. Hannah gripped my hand tightly. "Mia, I don't want to die here." Liam suddenly spoke, weak but with urgent clarity. "The stones." "What about the stones?" I asked. "They protect against it. Against all of them," he breathed. "That's why it put me there. It needed me inside to break the protection." The caller let out a low, rumbling whistle, like a warning. "What do we do?" Hannah cried. "We can't get back to the stone circle." "We don't need the circle," Liam whispered. "We just need the symbols." He pointed shakily to the ground. Roots, rocks, dirt. "I can draw them," he gasped. "If I can stand, and if you can hold them off." A drowned man lunged, shrieking wetly. "No time!" I screamed. "Then stall them!" Liam shouted back. Hannah raised a broken branch like a weapon. "Do it, Liam!" He knelt in the dirt and began to trace shapes with trembling fingers. Ancient shapes, curved lines, angled runes, symbols that seemed to glow faintly even before he finished drawing them. The caller tilted its skull and whistled, furious this time. The drowned sprinted toward us. I grabbed the heaviest rock I could find. Hannah swung wildly with her stick. We fought like terrified animals, just enough to slow them, not enough to stop them. One drowned hiker grabbed my ankle, pulling me to the ground. I kicked, screamed, felt its cold fingers clamp onto my leg. "MIA," Hannah cried. "I'm okay. Keep them back." Liam's voice rose suddenly. "I'm done." "Then activate it," I yelled. I need blood, he gasped. It needs a life to charge it. The caller let out a thunderous whistle that shook the trees. The drowned rushed as one. Liam lifted his hand, then hesitated. I don't know whose blood it needs. Hannah's eyes widened. We don't have time. Just do something. The caller stepped closer, shadow covering us. The ground cracked beneath its weight. MIA, Liam shouted. Choose! The drowned leaped. The caller reached out a massive, root-twisted hand. Liam raised his bloody finger toward the symbol, and the forest exploded in white light again. Story 9, the light swallowed everything. Blinding, white, violent. It roared through the clearing like a wave, ripping the world away for a moment. And when it finally dimmed, the forest looked different, quieter, still, almost frozen. The drowned hikers lay motionless, scattered around us like discarded puppets. Their limbs twisted, their faces slack. No movement, no sound. For the first time since the nightmare began, the forest felt empty. But my relief died the second I looked at Liam. He was still kneeling, hunched over the symbol he'd drawn in the dirt. His hand pressed into the center of it. Blood smeared across the carved lines, and his eyes were rolled back white. Liam! I grabbed his shoulders. Liam, talk to me! Hannah knelt beside me, panic cracking her voice. What happened? Mia, what's wrong with him? His body shook violently, like the light was still passing through him. His fingers dug into the soil. His breath came in short, sharp gasps. It took too much, he whispered through clenched teeth. I didn't know it would take so much. Take what? I cried. My strength, my sight. I can't see. Hannah slapped a hand over her mouth. Oh my God! Before we could process it, a sound cut through the air. A low groan, deep, heavy, alive. The caller. We froze. The creature still stood at the edge of the clearing. But something was different. It wasn't towering anymore. It wasn't looming or advancing. It was kneeling. Massive wooden limbs braced against the earth. The stag's skull hung low, antlers scraping the ground. Its body shook, once, twice, like a wounded animal. The symbol, Liam gasped. It hurt it, Hannah whispered. Then maybe we can kill it. No, Liam said quickly, fear tightening his voice. The caller can't be killed. It's too old, too rooted into the forest. But the symbol, he coughed. The symbol forced it to retreat. It broke its control over the drowned. I looked around. The drowned people lay limp, unmoving, like they had been released, but only for now. How long will the protection last? I asked. Liam swallowed. Minutes. Maybe. The caller rose slowly, its head lifting an inch. The hollow sockets of the stag's skull faced us. Even without eyes, I felt it seeing us, studying us, choosing. We have to move, I said, helping Liam to his feet. He winced but didn't argue. The stone circle. We need to get back there. What? Hannah stared at him. Why would we ever go back there? Because, Liam said weakly, the circle doesn't just protect, it imprisons. Whatever the caller wanted from me, it needed to break the circle to escape fully. If we rebuild it, if we activate the symbols properly, we might be able to trap it again. Hannah shook her head. Liam, you can barely walk. And the drowned hikers, what if they get back up? They will, he said. The caller let out a long, low whistle. The drowned twitched, then began to stir. Hannah's face paled. That's our answer. We need to go. We took off into the forest again, Liam between us. Behind us, the caller's heavy steps shook the ground. Not chasing, yet, but following, guiding, herding. The forest bent, paths shifted. Roots rose from the soil like hands trying to grab us. But we moved anyway. Branches tore our clothes. Mud sucked at our shoes. The drowned moaned somewhere behind us. Footsteps uneven but gaining strength with every second the caller whistled. Hannah shouted over her shoulder, "Why isn't it running? Why isn't it tearing us apart?" "Because we're going where it wants," Liam said grimly, "back to the stones. If we fail to complete the circle, it wins." "And if we succeed?" I asked. He hesitated. "We'll find out." We broke through the last line of trees and stumbled back into the stone clearing. It looked darker than before. The stones no longer glowed. The carvings were faint, almost dead. But I felt something in the air, like the place was holding its breath. "It's weak," Liam said, pulling away from us and collapsing to his knees beside the nearest stone. "Help me realign the markings. They have to be perfect." Hannah and I crawled to opposite sides of the circle, brushing away leaves, dirt, and moss to expose the ancient symbols. "They're cracked," Hannah said urgently. "Some of them are broken." Liam touched one cracked stone and winced. "It's been destroyed, but the binding can still work with 3 of the 4 pillars. Hurry." Behind us, the forest groaned. The caller entered the clearing. Its antlers scraped the branches. Cold air followed it like a wave. The drowned hikers shambled behind it, twitching in jerks, their eyes blank. The caller stopped at the edge of the circle, towering over us, whistling softly, almost eagerly. "Mia!" Liam shouted. "The last one! Finish it!" I traced the final symbol, hands shaking. The carved lines hissed faintly with heat. The caller stepped forward. Its foot reached the outer ring. Hannah screamed, "It's coming in!" "It can't enter until the circle is complete," Liam shouted. "Finish it!" The caller lowered its skull, the empty socket staring inches from my face. Breath like cold wind washed over me. It whistled. My vision blurred. My ears rang. My teeth vibrated in my skull. I felt my knees weakening, my fingers slipping. "MIA!" Hannah cried. "Do it!" I dug my nails into my palm and carved the last mark. The circle ignited. The woods exploded in white fire. The caller reared back, howling in a whistle so loud the trees bent outward. The drowned collapsed like puppets with strings cut. Liam fell backward, blood dripping from his nose. Hannah grabbed my arm. "Mia, what's happening?" The caller thrashed against an invisible barrier, trapped just outside the circle. Its limbs jerked. Its skull cracked along one side. Dark fluid seeped from the seams. "MIA!" Liam shouted desperately. "Do not step outside that circle." I didn't plan to, not when the caller's massive hand slammed against the barrier, inches from my throat. And then a second cracking sound echoed through the clearing, louder, deeper, behind us. One of the stones, the cracked one, the weakened one, splintered down the middle. The circle flickered. The caller turned its skull toward me. The hollow sockets widened, and it stepped forward into the circle. Story 10. The caller stepped into the circle, a place where it was never supposed to stand, a place meant to bind it, contain it, keep it from the living. But the cracked pillar had broken the balance. Hannah stumbled back, dragging me with her. "It's inside! It's inside! Liam, what do we do?" Liam stared at the splintered stone, horror hollowing his face. "This wasn't meant to happen. It can't enter unless—" The caller bent its towering frame, lowering its skull inches from Liam's face. "Unless the cage is broken," he whispered. A single whistle, short, sharp, burst from the creature's skull, and Liam flew backward as if struck by a massive force, slamming into a tree. "Liam!" I screamed. He collapsed into the dirt, barely moving. The collar straightened, its antlers scraping the tree canopy. The ground trembled with each breath it took. The air warped around it, vibrating like something alive. Hannah grabbed my hand. "We run! Mia, we have to run!" But something strange happened. The caller didn't attack. It turned toward me, slowly, deliberately. Its skull angled downward, hollow sockets locking onto mine as though it could see straight through me. Then, it reached out one massive, root-twisted hand, not to attack, to touch. Like it was choosing, like I had been the point of this all along. My skin crawled. My mind buzzed with pressure. Images flashed across my eyes. Shadows, forests, death, drowning. Like someone had opened a door inside my skull and poured nightmares into it. Hannah screamed, "Mia, move!" I tried, but I couldn't. My legs refused. My arms felt numb. The caller's hand lowered toward my head, fingers curling, roots splitting, dripping with dark sap. I waited for the pain, but it didn't come. Instead, a voice, thin and strained, cut through the clearing. "Hey!" The caller paused. Liam stood shakily on his feet, leaning against a stone for support. Blood ran from his mouth, but he held something in his trembling hands. A stone fragment. One of the pieces from the cracked pillar. He dragged the shard across his palm. Blood dripped onto the soil, darkening it. "You want a host," Liam rasped, glaring at the caller. "You want someone to replace the thing you killed long ago. Someone to hold your voice, your whistle." The caller turned its skull toward him slowly. Liam lifted the stone fragment, letting his blood run down it, tracing the shape of an ancient rune etched on its surface. "You can't take Mia," he whispered. "You need someone already touched by your spell." The caller took one step toward him. Liam spread his arms. "I volunteer." "No!" I screamed, finally breaking free of the paralysis. Hannah grabbed my arm, holding me back. "Mia, don't! You'll die!" The caller tilted its head as if intrigued. Liam coughed, blood splattering the dirt. "I've already heard your whistle. I've already been inside your circle. You marked me, not her." The caller's massive frame loomed over him, shadow swallowing his entire body. Liam took a staggering breath, then slammed the blood-covered stone fragment into the inside of the circle's glowing lines. The effect was instant. The circle ignited in a violent, blinding flare. Like white fire erupting from the earth, the caller shrieked, not a whistle now, but a warped, ancient scream that shook the trees and sent birds exploding from the forest canopy miles away. Its limbs jerked violently. The stag's skull cracked further, dark smoke pouring from the fractures. Hannah shielded her eyes. "What's happening? What is he doing?" "He's completing the seal," I whispered. "With his blood, with a sacrifice." Light exploded upward, forming a column of raw energy around the caller. The creature twisted and thrashed, hands scraping at the invisible walls forming around it. And Liam stood inside with it, his body silhouetted against the brilliant light, hair whipping around him, arms raised toward the monster. "My eye!" he shouted over the roar. "Listen to me!" Tears blurred my vision. "Liam, get out, please! You and Hannah, run! Don't come back here! Don't let anything break the stones again!" "Liam, don't do this!" He smiled, broken, weak, brave. "It's okay, Mia. Someone has to stay. Someone has to finish the binding. Someone marked by it." The caller's shrieks grew louder, piercing the air like daggers. Its body collapsed inward, twisting into itself. Dark tendrils wrapped around Liam's legs, pulling him toward the center. He didn't resist. He stood tall, standing between us and the creature with the last strength he had left. "Mia!" he shouted one last time. "Live! For all of us!" Then the light swallowed him. A final, deafening whistle shattered the clearing. And then, silence. The column of light imploded, collapsing into the ground with a sound like wind being sucked inward. The forest stilled. The stones dimmed. The collar was gone. And so was Liam. For a long moment, none of us moved. The clearing smelled like ash and earth. The forest was dark again, quiet in that terrible way that meant something ancient had been disturbed. Hannah collapsed to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. I staggered to the center of the clearing, falling to the ground where Liam had stood. The soil was warm, but he wasn't there. Just a faint scorch mark and a carved symbol glowing softly beneath the dirt, flickering like a dying heartbeat. I fell forward, gripping the soil. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry." The forest said nothing, but the silence felt different, lighter, emptier. The collar was gone, bound again, for now. We left the forest without looking back. The drowned hikers never rose again. Their bodies were still, empty. Whatever held them had vanished with the collar. We reached the ranger station at dawn, mud-caked, shivering, traumatized. No one believed our story. Liam was listed as missing. We told them he wandered from camp. We told them we couldn't find him. We told them everything except the truth. Because who would believe that a friend saved us by giving himself to an ancient forest god? Who would believe the whistle? Weeks have passed. Hannah moved across the country. I barely sleep. And sometimes, late at night, when the wind is still, I hear it, a faint whistle, low, deep, echoing through the trees behind my house. Not the caller, not the drowned. Someone else, someone familiar. And I know Liam isn't gone. He's guarding the stones now. He's the one keeping the forest quiet. He's the one warning me. Because sometimes the whistle changes, growing sharper, closer, urgent, like he's saying, "Don't ever go back." And I won't. But sometimes when the night is especially still, I whistle back, just once, for him, and the forest whistles in answer. The end.